And over here, you're looking at the north of Gaza.
At one of the sites where the massacres were happening.
18 people went inside this vehicle seeking for shelter.
When I got to the base, there was a fight there. Around 40 terrorists inside the base already.
A bunch of women who were kind of abandoned, and they really didn't have the ability to protect themselves.
We are right here. These cars are the aid that's coming in and it's not checked yet.
It was very, very hard mission because you don't want to hurt people that was kidnapped, hostages.
No Israeli Arabs who actually speak out against this thing.
Extremely few, because they're all petrified of being labeled as collaborating with Israel.
He didn't think to himself on the way, who's religious, who's non-religious, who's a Jew, who's not a Jew, who's right-wing, who's left-wing. He jumped into the tank when he got here and he went to fight.
Hello everyone. Well, we are in the airport in Bergamo and we are going to Israel. Now we have a flight to Tel Aviv at 5:25 and we are going to spend 3 days to see the situation in Israel right now. We are gonna go to Gaza to see the site of October 7th. We are going to see the Gaza Humanitarian Fund. We are going to see some of the sites in Gaza, and we are going to do the reporting of how things are there in reality and how people are being and how people are living there. And then we're also going to, of course, meet some of the members of the parliament and spend some time exploring Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. So get on the trip with us, and I hope you find this trip very interesting for you. Let's go. Jerusalem, checking in the hotel and leaving tomorrow morning for a full day of trip meetings and everything. Morning from Jerusalem. We are getting ready to leave. Now it's 8 in the morning. We are waiting for our bus and we are gonna go all of the way to the border with Gaza. We'll see the sites and then we are going to Tel Aviv to meet with the Italian ambassador and some other stakeholders here in Israel. And this is exciting. This is an interesting day, and our guests will also find it really insightful for whatever they're doing. So let's get on the journey with us today.
Came here and started working on primarily issues that would expand Israel's relationship with other countries and explain the areas that I think are the most difficult. So the area that I focused on the most was Israel's relationship with Judean Samaria, the West Bank. Well, we put out many different options to solve the conflict. One of them that General Levy used to talk about, Palestinians who live in the West Bank would have the option of relocating to a new newly built kind of like Emirates. Think of Dubai in the Sinai, and they could live tethered there, or they could stay in the West Bank. No one's forcing them to leave. But the seat of power was going to be in Gaza. It's not going to be in the West Bank. So you could continue. No one's forcing you to leave. You can still leave there. But if you want to have a robust, homogeneous Palestinian environment, it would be in Gaza, and then some area just outside in Egypt. That actually Egypt seemed like they were comfortable with this, as long as they were seen as being part of the solution to the conflict, not as undermining the Palestinian narrative.
This is Ashkelon. See the city of Ashkelon? If you go further up, you'll see Ashdod, and on a clear day further up, you can see all the way to Tel Aviv, which is amazing. And over here, you're looking at the north of Gaza. Jabalia is more in the center, you can see, but you've got an amazing view. This is a borderline community with Gaza. There were, if I'm not mistaken, 15 people killed there that Saturday because of gliders that came in from Gaza. Only 3 gliders, about 12 to 15 people that were killed over there. And once the army came in, they decided to put a big flag. So every time the army gets a bit tired or anxious or stressed, they look up, they see the flag, and they get motivated. So you can see, of course, everything that happened here. This is a road that takes you actually all across of Sderot, okay? Now the terrorists arrived to Sderot over there at the junction at 6:30 in the morning. You can't see the junction, the entrance to Sderot. They arrived at 6:30 in the morning, and there was a minibus with elderly that they brought from Ofakim, which is a bit south of here, 15 minutes. They brought the elderly, and they were going to the Dead Sea. So they came to pick up people from Sderot. They entered the junction. The terrorists took everyone out of the bus. We're talking about old people, yes, ages 65, 70, 80. They put them in a line, and they shot all of them. And then they started entering Sderot, going to the police station, going into neighborhoods, and everything that you've heard. This is how it started. Now you can see there is an army base over here on one of the hills. Can you see it? Over there, straight? Exactly. It's called Kuf Shtayim. It's like K2. It is the only army base that wasn't invaded that is on the border. Why? Because all of the army bases that are built across the border, they were built like kibbutzim. No one expected an invasion coming in. They were built like a kibbutz. There was a very ridiculous fence, which you saw on TV. And over here, you can see the only base that is on top of a hill, so it enjoys the benefit of being higher. It has like a channel around it. It's very difficult to go there. It was not invaded. They saw on time. The rest of the bases, as you know, there was Gush Katif, right? There were Jewish settlements until the disengagement in 2005. 2005, army bases came out of Gaza, and then the army said, part of the conception, of course, we don't need to build army bases on the border. We can go 10, 20 kilometers after the border and create these bases. By the way, these bases were also infiltrated on October 7th. But the Gaza division, they said, you know what, we'll leave it on the border, but there were no combat soldiers over there, okay? There were regular soldiers that were doing their Saturday. They hardly had any weapons together with them. And it looked like a kibbutz, like I'm telling you. You know, if you've been to a kibbutz, you see all the bushes and all the beautiful places. They didn't have a proper fence. And this base, the Gaza division, was invaded. And many were killed in there. So over here, you can get a pretty close idea of what is happening. Most of the Hamas is right now over here in the north, where you can see, in all the buildings. If you'll go to Rafah, if you go to Khan Yunis, you'll see all the buildings disintegrated. Because even if the buildings, if you're going to look, there's like a telescope over here. If you put 5 shekels in there for the city of Sderot, you can see that all the buildings are ruined, but people are still living there. In Zikim, you see where the chimneys are?
Yeah.
She is in a special unit in the Navy. It's a combat unit. It has boys and girls. I'm sorry, I'm saying boys and girls because they're kids, 19, 20 years old. So she's in a very light vessel called the Bumblebee. It's like 8 meters long. And of course they have, a special, like, how do you say mag in English? Like a special weapon. And they guard the territorial waters of Israel. So there's in Haifa, there's in Ashdod, and there's in Eilat. She was attached to Ashdod base, and once a month, prior to October 7th, they used to do a whole week in Zikim, where the chimneys are. You can see it's like a 5-minute boat drive to Gaza. And on that Saturday, they were supposed to have 2 bumblebees. Each bumblebee is with 8 soldiers. One broke down before Saturday. She calls us to say Shabbat Shalom, have a good Sabbath. And, one of them broke down. They went back to Ashdod. We're only with 1 bumblebee. It will be great. They like it because they have peace and quiet there. They don't have the commanders on their heads. They like being there peacefully. And on the morning of October 7th, we heard that there were gliders. And there's also an infantry base in Zikim, in the same kibbutz, which was invaded. And we were hysterical because she didn't let us what's happening with her. We didn't know if there were also gliders in the base of the Navy or it was just over here. And at 3 p.m. she calls us from a different phone and she tells us everything is okay. She's in Ashdod. You have no idea how many terrorists we killed. And we're like, oh my God. And then she started telling us a story. 6:29 a.m. There are rockets. What do you do when there's rockets? We're used to it. We go inside a shelter. We're used to the rockets. It's ridiculous. In some homes, we just turn the other way. My husband, he turns the other way, on the pillow. So there were rockets. It took time for the observance of the Navy. Also the Navy has observance, just like there were Nachal Oz that were killed and burned. There's also in the Navy over there. Took them some time, soon I'll tell you why, to understand that there are 8 rubber boats. Each one carries about 8 to 10 terrorists with weapons, trying to invade Zikim, which is closer, and also getting into Ashkelon. From Ashkelon, they have free distance, 20-minute boat drive to Tel Aviv. So they get on the boat. Now, usually, even when there's a slight warning of something that's supposed to happen, the commando comes. And, then there's like a battle of egos. They say, this is ours. They say, this is ours. But this time, nothing. No commando. We know the commando was in the south, Kerem Shalom, where you're supposed to be. Please God, in Kerem Shalom, in Sufa, in Cholit, trying to prevent a massacre for the Jewish communities down south. So there was no one there. And then they tell them, okay, take all the ammunition you can. They have special hand grenades to throw in the water. They have special weapons. Go and start seeing what's happening. Now, just like everyone else, they think they're the only front. They don't know what is happening in the country right now. And they're thinking, where is the army? What is happening? There are 8. There were 2 girls and 5 boys, not even 8. One was missing on that boat. My daughter was the driver. And 2 boats, rubber boats with terrorists, came within 5 minutes. They missed them like this. And they are the ones that invaded Zikim, the base, not the kibbutz. There was fierce fighting, but they invaded the base. And all the casualties you heard on the shore, right, on the beach, there were kids that were camping and families and fishermen that came in the early morning. They were all killed and shot. And my daughter said they tried to come real close to the beach because they could shoot them. They were a very, very light vessel. But they were afraid that there will be double-sided shooting because they knew there was an army base in Zikim. And they didn't understand, where the hell are the soldiers? Where is the army? They were afraid to shoot. They did shoot, they did kill, but a lot of Israelis were murdered that Saturday. And they were on the beach, on the sea, for 7 hours, back and forth, shooting the boats. There were also 2 Bs. A B is a very, very heavy vessel, a very heavy boat. It was far away. One went into the Mediterranean for like a routine assignment, just to show you how far and detached we were that Saturday. And one was closer. They were shooting the rubber boats with terrorists. The rubber boats exploded, terrorists jumping into the waters, starting to swim with all their weapons to the shore. And they are going on the boats back and forth, 7 hours. They had their GoPro cameras on their helmets, so you can see the video that the IDF spokesperson have issued. She said she thought they were against 2 boats, and she thought they were on the waters for an hour. She couldn't believe it that they were almost 8 hours in the waters. She was the driver, like I said. Whoever they didn't manage to kill, she ran over, and then they had to take the bodies out of the propellers. After 7 hours, 3 propellers started going dead. They had to head back to Ashdod. That was the Navy that day. You speak about the Israeli Navy, that was the Navy that day. 7 soldiers, 7 boys and girls, 2 girls, and of course 2 bees that came to the rescue shooting from far away. She told us that day, I asked her, what was out of the ordinary that day? She says to me, nothing. Think, what's... And then she says, you know what? You remember, of course, you know of all the news that we heard, that there were bases, that there were mock kibbutzim built in Gaza, and the Hamas was training on the mock kibbutzim, and we did nothing, and we knew that they were doing this. Now, as a resident, I've been getting all the time messages. The noises that you hear are the Gazans training. They're firing rockets at the waters. Everything is okay. Go back to sleep for years. So, also as an army, we did nothing to prevent. They were training. What did we think? They're training what? They're playing Playmobil? Are they playing with Lego? They were shooting at the waters. We did nothing. And that morning, my daughter told me there was supposed to be a Hamas Navy training in the waters. And that's why it took the observance of the Navy a few minutes to understand that they are not just training, they are actually getting out of the territorial waters and coming towards our direction. Now, I didn't understand how do we babysit the Hamas commando unit, and what did we expect would happen, you know? If we wouldn't have babysat them, we could have killed them. Also back then, as soon as they invaded, boats would have come out. But we didn't. And these are all the casualties that were killed also in the Zikim base, the soldiers, and on the waters and on the beach itself.
So many of them, but you can see every single one person, picture generally uplifting a smile, and it says, you know, the sky is not the border. Okay, go even beyond it, go beyond the sky. Love your friend as you love yourself. Your smile will always be with me. Always just a sort of uplifting messages, and that even though you see this, you're like, oh my God, so many people died, you're also looking at all these uplifting messages, images of flowers, of bravery, of courage, and you go to any bus station, train station, it's plastered with this.
Art from culture, you know, actors, musicians, creators who have followed, who went to fight.
And that's the similar between Israel and Ukraine, that these aren't just only professional fighters. We have some who are. And many had their life and had families, and they were moving on.
Just starting,
They're just starting.
They did nothing. But these kids already, you know, in the army, they have a different perception, and you can see the beautiful sayings that they left us. You know, he says, this is Alam Ahsan Daksa. He's not Jewish, he's Druze. And he says, we insist of keeping our humanity and choosing life every day and every day again. I mean, it's beautiful. He says, the minute that you know what's the reason you're doing something, nothing can stop you.
My idea is that, like, now every Israeli is going to hear this. And as devastating and as sad, and there's a flip side of it all. There's sadness, but there's also something that's encouraging about how even in death and despair, there's something that's uplifting, and they died for a reason. They died so that we can live, and that we can grow.
We're in Moshav Kuma. This is my Moshav. These are the grounds of my Moshav. The Moshav is built over there, but this is part of it. We are here, and we came all the way from Sderot. We were over here looking at the border, right? And we came on this road. This is road 232. Do you see 232? It's from Sderot all the way to the south of Gaza. Okay, this is Gaza, Khan Yunis, Rafah. You can see everything. This is the blood route. It's a two-way street, two-way road. And the terrorists that came, they overtook this road from both sides. and they prevented the army and from everyone from getting there. You can see the extent of Route 232. They just prevented the army from coming and giving help. They prevented civilians from coming and helping because it became the blood route, right? All these vehicles you see here, 90% of them were on that route. People don't understand, it's like not a small road. It totally surrounds everything. So we are over here in Tecuma. Now, why are all the cars over here? Because we're very close to the border. We're 6 kilometers from the Gaza border. And it's an open space. It used to be fields of wheat, okay? This is where we planted our wheat. And the army came to us and they told us on October 8th, we need a place to bring the vehicles. We need a place to come. For why? To appraise them, okay? People didn't understand the extent and the amount. They wanted to appraise them. So it wasn't the army here, it was tax authority until last year. And they were in charge of it. They wanted to appraise. And then came 10 cars and 14 cars and 40 cars and 50 cars. And at the beginning, they didn't understand, they wanted to appraise it. And then all of a sudden they see a grenade or a bomb, rolling off the car. And then they say, okay, wait, we have to bring the engineering squad to check it. And then they start finding human remains and hair and flesh. And then they say, wait, in Judaism, you have to put every single piece of the body under the ground in burial. So we brought Zaka. It's an organization that volunteers and they collect everything in bags, including ashes. Now, out of the cars, they were 250 barrels of ashes, okay? Because the terrorists didn't come to kill. They came to kill and to demolish and to disintegrate and to lose. In Hebrew, there's a phrase, say to lose. They came to lose the Jewish people. They didn't want to see them at all. So what they did was they brought very, very highly explosive, inflammatory chemicals that they spread in the houses, and they burnt the houses at like hundreds of degrees Celsius so that nothing was left. You see this ambulance? Why am I showing you the ambulance? Because as people that come from abroad, you know that an ambulance is an international sign. And on the Nova Festival over there at Re'im, at the forest where the festival took place, 18 people went inside this vehicle seeking for shelter because they knew that an ambulance is a trademark. Of course, they fired an RPG, and there was also an oxygen tank which exploded. It took 8 months to discover who are these 18 people that were inside this ambulance. And when this ambulance was brought here, it was tilted on its side, and a necklace dangled. And they saw the necklace. It belonged to a girl called Shani Gabai, which they didn't find for 2 weeks. And they didn't understand because they already buried the people that they found in there that were partially, if they found like bones or something, there were 2 people that they could identify at the beginning for bones. But the rest, 16 people were not identified. So they started redigging the graves. And they found in one of the graves, they found 2 bodies. They found the spinal cord of Shani Gabai. So they told their parents, now you can put her to rest. You know that she was killed. Now you can put your souls to rest. So this is the story of the ambulance. In Judaism, in Yad Vashem, it says there's a place called each man has a name. Every man has a name. Over here we call it every car has a name. Every car has a story. You can see all these QR codes that you can learn the stories of every single one of them. You can see the red vehicle over there that belonged to a police officer that was killed at the police station in Sderot while he saved a baby and her sister. Have you heard that story? Amazing story. A baby and her sister, their parents were driving at 6:30 past the police station of Sderot. The parents were killed. The killers, the terrorists, didn't see the kids. And then when a policeman came to her, and you could see it on his GoPro camera, a girl, which is 4 years old, says to her, are you from Israel? Are you from Israel? And he says to her, yes, I'm from Israel. I will save you. So she says, I'm here with a baby. She's 4 years old. And she's got a sister 2 years old. And he saves them. And when he goes back, he gets fired and killed. This is his car, the red one over here. This one belongs to a farmer. Do you see the difference? How difficult it was that Saturday? Because also the terrorists had white pickup trucks. It was a big mess to understand who is from our forces and who is the others. Look over there on the other side. There's a guy with a with a black shirt. He's standing in front of a white pickup truck. That belonged to the terrorists. I mean, try and tell me the differences. It is so difficult. It was such a mess. Over here, there's a wall of almost 300 burnt vehicles. As I said, they were going one by one, making sure that the people are killed, shooting them again and again and again, making sure, and then burning everything. It was very important for them to burn everything and to raise in flames. So we've got 300 cars, and at this parking lot, there was 1,640 cars. Now there's 1,440 because 200 were flown all over the world.
We are at one of the sites where the massacres were happening on October 7th.
All girls.
And what is this monument?
Nachal Oz is a community that's right on the border. These were those who fought to save this community, but this over here are all there were a whole bunch of women who were kind of abandoned, and they really didn't have the ability to protect themselves. They did fight to the best they could, but they were just massacred on October 7th. It's a monument to their strength, their courage, and then unfortunately the tragedy that we lost them.
They are so young. So young.
Very young, and they never thought that they were really in combat. They were helping, but they never expected to be really in the kind of combat that they saw and that they met their end with. Tragically, they also had warned that they saw things that were changing in Gaza. They saw some signs that things were changing, and either people didn't acknowledge them or didn't realize it. I don't think it was necessarily because they were girls. They were certainly respected as soldiers, but there was a sense throughout the IDF establishment that no one could imagine that Hamas posed the same level of threat as we saw on October 7th. And obviously the consequences is quite tragic.
You see the Zeppelin over here? It's filled with cameras. We have it in the air for the last 20 years, and there are 3 of them. And on October 7th, not even one of them was in the sky because they tampered with them. They connected the cord. It's connected with a cord, and because of the conception of the army that nothing will happen, nobody even thought that it's a problem that not even one is in the sky. So we had also no eyes. I mean, we had other eyes, but they were also shot at the beginning of the war. As soon as they started, they shot all the eyes, all the cameras on the base. We had no eyes from the sky. Now we do.
Yeah.
Too little, too late.
We are at the Nova site, place where the festival was happening, and then the October 7th massacre happened. So these are the memorial of all of the people who were killed by Hamas.
bottom. You know, the one that sang in the Eurovision this year, the Israeli singer, she was one of the ones in the bottom. And her father said to her, be dead, Yuval. That's what he said to her, be dead.
My God.
And she was lying like this for hours. And look how small it is.
That's because you cannot breathe, and then they kept shooting at it, right?
Yeah, they kept throwing hand grenades inside. Became a death trap.
And I always said when I came to Israel, I found that Yom Kippur, that day, which is in a couple weeks, is actually not the holiest day. The holiest day is Memorial Day. Memorial Day in Israel is celebrated, and it's commemorated, but also celebrated the day before Independence Day. It's a very unique thing. And I tell my American friends, in America you have July 4th is Independence Day, and Memorial Day, where we honor those who were killed in action, dying to defend the country, is the last week in May. People know it as the beginning of the beach season. You go to the beach, and that's the beginning. It's also a good time to buy a car because cars are on, you get a good sale. It's nothing to do with the military. In Israel, you have a very sad day of Memorial Day, and it's tethered, it's the day before Independence Day. And what it does is it makes Memorial Day more important, and it makes Independence Day also more important, because it's not just a day for parties and barbecues, it is that, but it's also, you understand that you're only getting that because of the sacrifice that was made. And the way that Israelis commemorate in Memorial Day is we have an Eretz sound that goes for a minute, and it's 11 o'clock in the morning on the day. So many people go to a military cemetery, and they used to say that you never had to turn off your cell phone. Why? You don't want to interrupt it. The cell phone, everybody stops. You're driving on the highway, you pull over the side of the road, everything stops. So why don't you turn off your cell phone? Because you would never possibly receive a phone call, because no one would ever call you at 11 o'clock. So there's no point in turning off your cell phone. That's how solid this is. And I think now, last year, people came for Memorial Day to this site. They came, you go to a military cemetery typically. You go maybe a cemetery of a loved one, somebody was killed in a terror attack or something. People came here, and it was very powerful to see people observing the air raid siren for a minute or 2 minutes, depending if it's at night or the day, and they just quiet, and you could hear all of the pain and all of the sorrow that this place brought. You could see it come to life on the faces of all the people who were there, and hopefully in a couple of minutes Yaron will be able to talk to us a little bit about some of his experience fighting in this immediate area on October 7th. One of our colleagues from IDSF is Oren Solomon, who is a brigadier general, and he and his son were extremely heroic in this immediate area and saved hundreds and hundreds of people with basically a pistol and not much more than that. They didn't understand what was coming. He just came in the car and drove, not understanding that he was coming into a real battle. No one imagined there was going to be a battle in Israel. In Gaza, you can imagine a battle. You can't imagine a battle in Israel. And on October 7th, the first minutes and the first hours, was a tremendous amount of confusion, because even if you heard what was accurate, no one believed it. So you're not going to believe that that's actually happening. No one's believing that there's thousands of Hamas people are in our border. So it's not that there was so much confusion. Obviously there was confusion, but even if you got accurate information, people didn't believe it.
In the IDF in reserve, I served for 24 years in the IDF since I was 18. I started as a combat soldier and I finished as a deputy of a brigade, as a lieutenant colonel. I also was a chief operation officer for a special operation officer. I was responsible for all of the elite units in the IDF, and I was the operation officer of the Judah and Samaria divisions. And since I retired from the army in reserve, I became the chief operation officer of the Gaza division, It means there is someone else there in active duty, but in emergency, I'm become the second one, and we are doing the same role, and we're just sharing the time together because it's very, very intense time during a war, and there is a lot of missions, and he can be awake like 24 hours. So that's what I'm doing since the war started. For me, the war started like for any other citizen. It was a holiday, 6/29 actually. I'm living in a small village south of Tel Aviv, north to this area, and I heard the rockets, the siren actually. I heard the sirens, and my first call was to the Gaza division commander, and I asked him questions that I believe that no one in Italy will ask if he will hear the sirens, but in Israel it was very common question. I asked him, is this a regular rockets or something different? I mean, because by the years since we left Gaza Strip in 2005, this started to launch a mortar fire, and we said, okay, that's not okay. We tried to fight against it, but by the time they improved their abilities and they start to launch more and more rockets, and instead of getting inside Gaza and fighting against the terror organization, at time we let them to be bigger, be stronger, to extend their capabilities, and they had more and more rockets, and our reaction was just to bring the Iron Dome, to put more shelters in the cities and in the villages, and sirens. So they said, okay, we can handle that by hear the sirens, getting to shelters, nobody will get hurt, although that some of the people get hurt during the years, but we accepted actually as a country, okay? Even as I can say, even as a society, in society, I believe that even in Italy, same in Israel, that we are a very active society. If something that we not accept, we're doing protest against the government. That's democracy, right? But in Israel, nobody made any protest against the government because of this rockets. We made a protest because the price of the milk, because of the changing in the Supreme Court. But launching rockets into Israel for less than 20 years, almost it was like 18 years. We said we can live in that. It was so ridiculous. We didn't even realize that they're going to be invasion. They're going to be someone going to infiltrate into Israel. And he told me, if you want to come, you can come. I'm not. You don't have to. I said, okay. I tried to find my uniform. I'm in reserve. I wear my uniform and I started to drive. And I tried to find a way to the Gaza Division Base Command, which is not so far away from here. But immediately all of the roads will start to be blocked by the police. But I still didn't really understand the full picture because I thought this is just the rockets. By the time I received some videos from the Sderot, I said, okay, this is only in Sderot, and as a military, you prepared to marry 2.3 points of invasion, but not like 85 points, the same like happened in October 7. And because I knew some of the dirt roads around here from my military service, I reached to the after it took me like 3 hours to reach to the Gaza Division Base Command. Usually it should take me like 45 minutes, 50 minutes, but I still didn't really understand the picture. When I got to the base, there was a fight there. Around 40 terrorists inside the base already break into the base, killed some of the soldiers. Some of the soldiers inside were still fighting. And I got in, they started to shoot at me too. And then an elite unit joined me, and my commander told me, listen, don't stay here. I want you to go to another base. We have like the backup operation room, because this operation room right here, it's not working. There is no one that can work in. If you try to reach to the operation room, there are still many terrorists here. There is a backup operation room, go and work from there. So I did my way to this operation room. There were still terrorists on the way, a lot of fighting. When I reached to this operation room, I found some of other reserves officer, and we started to try to understand the full picture to try to stabilize the situation, but we still didn't really understood what's going on. The first phone call that I got, and I still have some of my messages here, it's from a mom that lives in the north, and she told me, you have to go to save my daughter. And I said, where is she? He said, in the Nova party. And I asked her, what do you mean? What do you mean Nova Party? I didn't even know that these parties exist. I didn't know that there is a party here next to the border. And then she told me, listen, she climbed on the tree and she have some terrorists under the tree and she's hiding, and she sent me the location of her daughter. And then I got one more message from one more guy. He lives in Kibbutz Nirim. His name is Shai Levi. He's a military commentator on TV, and we met in some of the studios because I'm sometimes asked me to come to some segments in the TV. So we met each other there, and he told me, listen, there are terrorists around my house. They're trying to break in. I don't know, what are you talking about? Are you serious? There is terrorists inside the villages? And he said yes. And then one more call. So we started to write all of the names of the villages that people call us on the windows. We took a marker and we write it on the windows because we had no computer, we had nothing there. The room was almost empty. And we start to use our cell phones to call to our friends from the army, commander in the army, to send them to any location that we received a phone call. It was long day. I'm doing like very, very short right now. When I'm telling you this story, at the evening, like around 7 p.m., it was still at daylight. I said, okay, I'm going back to trying to reach again to the operation room in the Gaza Division Base Command, because it's not a place to work from. It's very, very hard to understand the picture from here when you don't have all of the system, the computer, that you can just put a net in every place that you know that there is someone, but there is any a fight there. So I start to drive with 4 more officers in reserve, and all of the way to the Gaza Division Base Command. It was hard, very, very. To the vision that I saw, it was unbelievable. Many bodies on the road, cars lighting with fire, bodies of terrorists, bodies of soldiers, bodies of civilians. It took us like 1 hour drive. Usually it's like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, just to grab the bodies and to try to move. And I was shocked. I was shocked to see that. I never really prepared to see something like that. And when I reached to the operation room, there was in a line some of the bodies of the soldiers that killed inside the base. And we got to the operation room, and we had 3-man missions in this night. The first one is to evacuate all of the civilians that are in the villages, because there were still terrorists all over. So we sent some of the buses there. Some of our soldiers were leading these buses, and we tried to evacuate more and more families out. The second was to try and to shoot every vehicle, pickup vehicle, that driving back, or motorcycle that driving back to Gaza. We understood that, of course, that the terrorists use these vehicles. It was very, very hard mission, because you don't want to hurt people that was kidnapped, hostages. You don't want to hit our car, because you know when the helicopter is up in the air, everything is very, very small. Nobody really points them and said, this is the line. That's usually in any battle, you say this is the line of our forces, our troops, this is where the enemy. But it always mixed. So you know when a pilot need to shoot, I don't know, even if you shoot a machine guns, or even if you use, of course, rockets, the effect is very, very big. So you have to be very, very accurate, very, very, very correct. Yeah, well, wherever you shoot. And the third mission was to try and to find all of the terrorists that were still hiding in the area, because during the day we captured some of the terrorists and we investigated them, and they say that some of the terrorists had this special mission to carry a bag with energy, to hide in the field and to wait for days and maybe weeks to the counteroffensive of our unit, so they can attack us from behind. And of course that we couldn't even try to start to prepare when you know that there are terrorists everywhere that can surprise you. So this mission took 3 weeks until we found the last one. It was not so far away from Kerem Shalom, in the south of the area. And that's one of the reasons why it took us like 3 weeks to start a counter-offensive inside the Gaza. One more reason is that there was a lot of soldier in reserve that came, more than the capabilities of every unit, because like let's say that every unit, every battalion is supposed to be like 550 soldiers. So all of the soldiers that were serving in the past and those that want to serve in this unit, more than 1,000 came to every battalion. Now you need to give uniform to all of them and vests and guns. We didn't prepare to so many civilians that will just came by themselves from the house and say, I want to come and to fight. And that's what will actually happen. Actually, in October 8th, just on the day later, more than 350,000 soldiers in reserve came by themselves. Nobody called them yet. Nobody sent them a message or letter. They understood where it's going to, and they're actually volunteers. Some of them was actually retired even from the reserve service because of the age, because of the, I don't know, they have like 6 or 7 kids, or I don't know, many reasons why they shouldn't serve in the reserve anymore, and they volunteer and say, no, we are coming, we want to fight. This is important war. We can't let it happen again. About 3 months after October 7, the father of Jared Kushner, Charles, right?
Charlie, yeah.
Charles Kushner. He came to Kfar Gaza and he asked me to come and to meet with him and to explain what happened. So on the way back to the car, he asked me, I don't understand, I mean, with all of your intelligence units, with all of the Mossad and the Shabak and so on, how can it happen? How could they surprise you? So I asked him, are you a businessman? He said, yes, I am. I told him, you're a good businessman? I said, yeah, I'm a very good businessman. Have you been a businessman in 2008? I said, yes, why? I told him, you know, the market in the United States collapsed. Did you lost money? I said, wow, I lost a lot of money. And I told him, but listen, what I heard, and what I learned, that there was many signs before. And you are a very experienced businessman. How couldn't you see the signs? So he told me, he gave me an amazing answer. He told me, I saw the signs, but I ignored the sign because I was sure that my money is going to make much more money. And I told him that's exactly what happened to us. I mean, even without the intelligence unit, all of the signs were there. The Hamas declared time after time that that's what they want to do. You can say that on the video, YouTube, the leader of the Hamas saying that's exactly what they want to do. And then they're starting to bring in, actually to smuggle in, a lot of weapons and explosive charge. And they started to create in underground manufacturers, right? Rockets, like homemade rockets. And we knew that. And then they started even to build a model of our villages inside Gaza, not so far away from the border. We could see that just with binocular, even without the binocular. And there was training about how to infiltrate and to break in our villages. So everything was there, but we were sure that giving them money, more money to the Gaza people, giving the ability to work in Israel, giving them to medical treatment inside Israel, even to the leaders of the Hamas and their families, that will bring quiet. They will have zero reason to do that and to get into a war. Why? To get everything, whatever they need. We don't stop them from doing everything. But we missed the main point. The main point is about ideology. Yeah. Their ideology is stronger than what we understand. I mean, our mindset. I mean, if you will go right now to visit in Africa and you see like one of the tribes are doing, I don't know, such a very, I don't know, weird ceremony, you will not judge them. So yeah, this is them, this is a tribe, that's how they live. You don't judge them. You don't say, why are they doing that? It's not make sense. No, this is the tribe, that's how they live. The cultures that they build, I don't say that they burn with that. Nobody burn with hate. Nobody burn with being anti someone else. But they, by the years, actually beginning in the 80s, when the Muslim Brotherhood start to bring the influence inside Gaza, and they actually started as charity sites. And after the charity site was working, they start to teach hate and to teach how to hate the West, not only Israel. It was only a milestone. You can hear them. It's not that you can hear them by themselves. By the time they create a hate to the, I can say, to the West culture, and of course, specifically to the Israelis. So the way that they chose to live, we couldn't really understand that, because okay, but we're trying to push to peace. Why not? We signed an Oslo agreement. We left Gaza in 2005. What can we do except for that, like to give them the opportunity to live? Someone asked me last week. Actually, I think it was a journalist from Italy that come to my office. She asked me, "What do you think about Trump plan? I mean, how Gaza will look in the future?" I said, "That's supposed to be UNRWA plan in the beginning. That's supposed to be the real UNRWA plan, to make the Gaza look like that." But they never really tried to change their life into a better life. They just tried to remain their life, miserable life, poor life. Why? So to push to hate against Israel, even in a worldwide hate against Israel. Unfortunately, that's what it is. If they were choosing to, I tell you, when we left Gaza, I was second command of battalion. I was a major, and my commander told me, "Look at Gaza now." When we left Gaza, in few years it's going to be the next Singapore, and I believed it. So why not? Such a beautiful beach, so much money they're getting from all over the world. Why not? Every human being will take this money and build a better life. But actually, they never use this money to build even one kindergarten, one high school, one hospital. All of the names of the hospitals inside Gaza is the, I don't remember exactly, it's the Emirates Hospital, the Qatar Hospital, I think there is
Indonesia Hospital.
Indonesia Hospital, just donation and donation and donation, but all of the money went to the underground, just for tunnel and tunnel and tunnel. We're talking about it's assessment of between 500 kilometer to 700 kilometer. 700 kilometer of tunnels. That's unbelievable. Now think about it. 500 kilometers of underground tunnels.
How big is Gaza overall?
It's around 12 kilometers on 52 kilometers. Now think about it. It's a muzzle. It's a maze, actually. For them, that's given more power. So actually, much of the power that the Hamas have right now is from the abusing their own society. That's why we're trying to give it the food by ourselves, because we give it without condition. Look what happened in the south right now on Rafah, and there is now one more point in the center. We don't check if there it's what family you are more belong to the Hamas or less. Everyone that coming can take a food, and even we're doing some of the hours just for women, because there are some of the things that only for women, some of the things that just women needs, and we don't want the women to feel a bit embarrassed. So we give only one row only for women's. We're doing like every couple days to get them to trying to live as normal as they can while we are fighting. I don't think that there is any other country in the history that did it before.
And how many terrorists are there in Gaza?
The thing is that during the war, because they had the food, every time they enlisted more and more people back to the Hamas, because they say if you want food, you have to join to the Hamas. So I assume it's 1,000, but the original Hamas members, it's very, very, very few. I mean, we killed a lot of terrorists since the war started, and as you can see, the only leader of that was from the first day of the October 7. He was the commander only of Gaza, Azadin Haddad, and now he's the commander of all of Gaza. I think he's the only one that left, that he was one of the supreme commander of the Hamas. We killed a lot of them, but there's still many that were part of the invasion on October 7, and we will not let them stay alive. Everyone that get inside Israel and murder civilians, Israeli civilians, wherever it will be, they know they murder Muslims, they murder Jewish, they murder Christian, wherever.
What's the name of the commander that's called?
Azadin Haddad.
And he's inside Gaza?
He was the commander of the Gaza City. Azadin Haddad. Haddad.
Thank you. Okay. And he is the commander of.
Now
Hamas?
he's actually the commander of all of the Hamas all over Gaza Strip.
And he's still alive, so.
He's still alive, unfortunately, but it will not take
For more.
a lot of time. Maybe tomorrow. I hope so.
Don't take out a life insurance policy.
I can't describe you, but he made the horrible things.
We finished with the visit to the Gaza border today. We didn't manage to go inside the territory. Hopefully tomorrow we can go. It's been a bit of too much paperwork, so we didn't have enough time to finish it for today, but hopefully tomorrow we can do it. We've seen several sites, we've seen the rumble of destroyed buildings in Gaza, we've seen the site of the October 7 massacre of the festival, we've seen where people were hiding, we've seen testimonials from soldiers and from the officers who've been working on sites on that day, and it's been something very lots of impressions and difficult to see so many things. I can't imagine seeing them on the day when it's happening. So now we're off to Tel Aviv to do some of the policy meetings. We probably won't be showing them, and tomorrow will be another day with another visit, probably all the way here. Yesterday we went to the border with Gaza, but we didn't manage to get in. And as we understood, we didn't manage to come in because there was another operation of IDF in Gaza and it was not safe to come down there. Originally, we came to Israel on the invitation from the Gaza Humanitarian Fund. It's the only organization that is effectively managing the distribution of the humanitarian aid in the hands of actually people, making sure that Hamas doesn't have the ability to hijack and to take over all of the humanitarian aid that is coming in, and that it gets in the hands of the people. We were coming here to see exactly how this is happening, to make sure and see with our own eyes that the aid is being delivered to people and there is plenty of food and plenty of aid, and to see that the problem is actually Hamas getting into the process and taking over the food and then reselling to people on the skyrocketing prices. Because of the escalation in the past couple of days, the aid actually has been halted. So this still remains to be seen today, how things develop. We really understand that there is a lot of misinformation happening, there is a lot of speculation with information that's happening in the media in the West, and it's so important to see it with your own eyes. And we are trying to do a fair reporting of everything that we see, recording the speeches that people give to us in private, and trying to help to shed some light on what's actually happening on the ground. Of course, it would be great to go down to Gaza. It would be great to go and be able to see with our eyes the trucks, the distribution sites, the process is being handled, to see people actually getting the aid that's being brought to them. But so far, we didn't manage to do that. This remains to be seen if we come back or not.
In 1967, when Israel liberated the old city of Jerusalem and all of the religious sites that were there, Israel was petrified that the Arab world, the Muslim world, was not going to accept Israeli sovereignty, Jewish sovereignty over those holy sites. And since Israel wasn't really planning on liberating those areas, that wasn't part of the battle plan. The battle plan was just to survive. Never imagined that we would be expanding. immediately Israel said, we don't want that responsibility, and handed over control of all the religious sites in the old city of Jerusalem to a group called the Waqf, which is Jordanian controlled. And to this day, that remains the case, despite the fact that from 1949 to 1967, when the old city of Jerusalem was controlled by Jordan, there was no similar sensitivity towards Jewish sites. The Jewish synagogues were all destroyed. In fact, the most famous Jewish synagogue in the old city that was rebuilt about 10 years ago is known as the Chorva synagogue, because Chorva means it was destroyed, because they had destroyed the synagogue and only one beam remained. It was it was a dome, and there was one beam that had remained, and that was iconic for many years. Now it's been rebuilt. The Waqf controls all of the religious sites. And I'll say, as Israel is talking with other countries, particularly Saudi Arabia, about expanding the Abraham Accords, one of the things that's clear that Saudi Arabia is interested in is that they would then retain control over the religious sites in Israel as opposed to Jordan, which would give them a monopoly over the significant religious sites, and that's something that has come up, and it's a source of frustration or rivalry with Jordan that Jordan maintains control over some of the religious sites in Jerusalem, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that Israel would consider offering to Saudi Arabia, because Israel is not thrilled with how Jordan has been maintaining things and continuing to stoke up problems. In the past, the police had deferred to the Waqf about not allowing Israelis to do anything on the area which is Jewish people's holiest site, not allowed to pray or anything, and now we are at a point where we're allowing many more Israelis to certainly walk there, to pray there, even briefly, not to make a scene. Despite that, while that happens, we're under tremendous guard, and you can be there for a very short amount of time. But the truth is, the way that the Temple Mount is managed by the Waqf is not merely offensive to Jews, but it's offensive to many, many Muslims, particularly Muslims that I have had the opportunity to allow to go there, or to facilitate them going, who are not from the Middle East. Muslims who are from Asia, Muslims who are from Africa. When they come to go pray, the Waqf grill them like they're second or third class citizens. And I've had a few Muslims who have traveled a very great distance from countries that from Asia and from Africa, who have said that the way they were treated by the Waqf at the Temple Mount, they call the Haram al-Sharif, was so disgusting and so detestable that it ruined their experience, and they refused to go there again. And I think that is, to me, that was actually quite, because they had no idea that I was involved with them. I'm not allowed to go. It's no Muslims are allowed to go to this area. So they go there and they treated them poorly. And I think it is something where hopefully more and more people have the opportunity to experience the brutality, both physical and emotional, that some of these Waqf leaders have, because there's been no accountability.
This is our second day on the road. Now we are going to Kerem Shalom to see the actually humanitarian aid and trucks. It's been a long time organizing everything, but looks like we are getting to go and see it with our own eyes. It's all the way south of Israel, very close to the border with Egypt. So you can see like Rafah is very close to the site where we are going. It's going to a military base, and we're very curious to see. It's around a 45 minutes drive, and we are arriving on site.
Ma quelli neri?
No, per mai.
Quella barba.
quickly.
We are right here.
That we see out the window, we see we can't put his face.
Thank you.
Wait a second, yeah.
Hello guys, nice to meet you everybody. Yes, you
We are at Kerem Shalom, where we are listening about the process of humanitarian aid distribution. So these cars are the aid that's coming in, and it's not checked yet, but it's about to be checked, to check for what goods are inside, and then to offload to the distribution to Palestinian territory. Yeah, so those are the aid as well, over there. What we were told is a lot of aid that is coming is the dual-use goods that then Hamas can use to commit terrorist attacks. For example, some medical supplies that can be either used in hospitals or can be used to stuff bombs. So the guards here are checking everything to make sure that they try to avoid. There's a lot of looting of the aid happening, and they make sure they have Palestinian trucks, Palestinian drivers. Sometimes they drive through the Israeli territory as close as possible to enter Gaza, to the distribution site in the shortest time, because around 80% of the goods are being looted. And now we are going to the border with Egypt to see more sites. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, we're going to the Egyptian border now.
Oh, the Egyptian border. Ah,
We're not going to Egypt.
So that's what Google Maps.
We are now at the border with Egypt. That's where the trucks are coming and they're being screened. There can be 4 trucks at a time that are screened. And within 15 minutes, there are hundreds of trucks coming throughout the day. They start working at 5:30 in the morning, ending late at night, and trying to bring as many people as possible. Also, through this border, people come from Gaza who need to leave due to medical reasons, or if they have nationality from another country. And today there was 20-30 people. Tomorrow they expect 600, all by recommendation of WHO.
I remember at the beginning of October 7th, there were many journalists who went down to see some of the Israelis in Rahat and the suburban area, I guess you could call it, who you could see were dealing with a very difficult identity crisis. Do they identify as Israeli? Do they identify as Palestinian? But they were victims, and Hamas treated them the same way. So where are we? Are we going to be loyal Israelis? Are we flying a blue and white flag? We're Israeli citizens. We kind of don't want those guys to take over. We don't those guys to take over. On the other hand, do they want to be Jewish? Like they don't have a positive relationship with Israel, and they've been trying to create their own independence, autonomy, not independence, but autonomy from the state of Israel to a certain extent. Their kids don't serve in the army. Maybe some of them might serve in police so that it helps them a little bit, but it's a challenge. And there are some organizations that do a very good job with dealing with the dual identity challenges that many Arab Israelis have. But that's really for people who want to have a positive association with Israel. They want to be Israeli, but they're dealing with the fact that they have cousins who live in, might be terrorists in the West Bank. Like, how do you deal with that? Like, these are my family. And it's a challenge. It's not an easy thing for them, but they're trying to get to a point where they could have a more positive and a healthy relationship with their Israeli identity. For many Muslims who are Israeli, and they see that Israel is probably the best place for them to be, but it's hard to acknowledge that, certainly publicly. Maybe privately they do. But publicly, this is a very hard thing. And as we get to the next generation, their identity gets more complicated. Do they want to serve in the army? If that's something they want to do, they can do. We see the Druze are extremely respected in Israel, because the Druze, people outside of Israel would consider them Arab. They would be offended. They see that they're their own identity. But the Druze are seen as some of the most courageous Israelis when it comes to military. In fact, I think the first lieutenant colonel who was killed in this war happened in mid-October, and it was Druze. And the roads to the Druze, generally they live in hills, and its cities are very hilly. So the roads are very, very thin, and the traffic getting there to pay respects, Israelis from all over the country came, and it was quite moving. I went there with a number of the media that was covering it, and it was quite moving. And the traditions between Jewish and Druze are somewhat similar, somewhat different, but it was quite remarkable how they honor their dead, and they consider themselves extremely patriotic Israelis. And many Druze are quite friendly with a lot of Israeli Arabs, particularly in the north. And as kids are friends, some are going off to the army. Some identify with terrorists. It's very confusing for kids. And I think generally most kids have moved more to be anti. So it's good to be against the system, against the establishment, and so you become more rogue and you become more pro-Palestinian. But now, particularly since October 7th, there is an understanding that this is, suicidal. It's very short term, but dealing with coming to terms with their reality as Israeli Arabs. Some Israeli Arabs are very happy to be, get involved in Hasbara. Most are like, I don't want to be used in any way. I just want to live my life. I'm happy that I'm here. I'm grateful I'm here. But I just want to be a doctor. I want to live my life. And we certainly want to encourage that. But we want to encourage Israeli Arabs who are grateful and appreciate the fact that they are Israeli. I live in an area just about a 10-minute walk from the hotel, where every single day in front of my doorstep we have people who are taking pictures, Arabs, who are taking Instagram pictures in front of my house. You even saw, yesterday we found a fake Facebook profile for me, which I didn't even know existed. Chris found it, and the picture they found that was taken from my own Facebook page is a picture the day of a terrible terror attack in Israel. I can't remember which one it was, before the war. A group of maybe 6 or 7 Arab women were taking pictures graduating college. And they were sitting in front of my house, because my house is picturesque. And the photographer puts it in front, and they're all taking off their gowns and congratulations. And every single day this is happening. And on that day, I went out and I said, how nice it is that the day that there is a terror attack, that there are still Muslims who are, we can get along with each other. But I'll say since October 7th, when that happens, and it happens every single day, it is ironic how every day, when I grew up, you graduated from college in May, maybe in June. Here in the Arab world, in Israel, they seem to be graduating from college almost every day of the year. There's always graduates taking pictures. Maybe Instagram is more popular than is what's driving it, rather than actual graduating from university. But I have a very different sense. I have a sense when you are Arabs living here, knowing what Israel is going through, seeing how Israel is being dragged through the mud internationally, lied about, and they don't see any of these people willing to raise their head and say, no, that's not true. I feel perfectly safe. You're accusing Israelis of war crimes. You're accusing all Israelis who are soldiers, which also means are my neighbors, because they're only soldiers in reserve, so they come back. These people are doing war crimes. Yet you're comfortable walking around. You're comfortable sitting at my doorstep taking pictures. You know how politely we treat you. If there's no acknowledgement of that, and there's no, when you go on Facebook and they take their pictures, I think my home is probably one of the most popular on Arab Instagram. There's no acknowledgement that they're in a Jewish home, who treats them well, who wishes them congratulations. None of that.
No Israeli Arabs who actually speak out against this?
Extremely few, very, very few. And there's a reason for it. It's because they're all petrified of being labeled as collaborating with Israel. You might live here, but once you go out publicly and you start speaking that way, there are some. But the people who come to my house, no. There's been no accountability. And I think that's been one of the major issues that I've seen in the desire of much of the West to present the Palestinian Authority as a legitimate potential peace partner. There has been such a hesitance and such a reluctance to acknowledge any shortcomings. And that has, over years, allowed the shortcomings to not to self-reform or to self-moderate. It's only forced them to get more aggressive and be more outlandish, and there continues to be no accountability. And now we're at a point where, again, 20, 30 years later, it's very difficult to reform at this point, and it's now a self-fulfilling prophecy that the level of I would say hatred for Jews, certainly in religious circles, is at a level that is not sustainable, and that's where a lot of the terrorism comes out, and it continues to be a major problem for Israel.
Good morning. We are at the Western Wall. I had to cover myself. It's our last day in Jerusalem. Yesterday was very interesting. Now we are going to go to give our prayers. We are going to split. The men will go their way. I'm gonna go my way.
And it was very big. It was destroyed the last time in the year 70. And end of today's tour, we'll see some of the huge stones that came down, how big these stones are. But you can see on top, they're much smaller, but you can see the bottom, much bigger stones. You'll see how big they are when we get close to the wall. But it goes down extremely, extremely deep. And this is how, and when in 1967, Jews came back and sort of liberated this area, this whole area was full of houses and construction. And the Arabs had made the area in front of the Western Wall a place where they dumped rahat. I think that was the word that we said.
Okay.
That's what it was. They left it there to make it disgusting and the Jews wouldn't come. And eventually we cleaned it up. There were a bunch of homes here, and the Arabs had built homes all the way up to it. You can see pictures from the early 20th century where Jews were prevented during the Ottoman rule from even praying there only one time a week. They only allowed them to pray there Friday night for the Sabbath services. But the tradition of the Jews was that when they would go, they would recite the Book of Lamentations. The Book of Lamentations is a book talking about the destruction of the temple. And even though they were finally able to go, they were only able to go one day a year, so they felt this was part of the sorrow, that they couldn't fully express it. And now that since 1967 we've liberated this area, we're able to go ahead and fully express and fully pray and fully be Jewish in our central area. You're hearing the sound, there's a horn that's being blown. This is the sound that's associated with the Jewish New Year, so the days leading up to people are blowing the sound of the ram's horn. I'll suggest is we'll go to the wall. It's traditional to go, you can touch the wall. People sometimes write the little notes and they put it in the wall. Take a few minutes, look around. It's a good place to express any thoughts that you have, any prayers you have for health, for wealth, your family, for yourself. And just take a few minutes to take it all in.
here is called the Mount of Olives.
Welcome to the city of David.
Around the world consider that place as a holy site as their holy King David. That's where he's buried. But when all these billions of people ask, where did King David actually live? Where was his house? Where are all these stories that happened from the Bible? Where did they happen? Yerushalayim, Harim Saviv La, Ve'Hashem Saviv Le'amo, Me'ata Ve'ad Olam. This verse that was written 3,000 years ago translates Jerusalem, hills surround it. When I take this verse, stand where we're standing, I look to the east, I see a hill. I look to the south, I see a hill. I look to the west, I see a hill. I look to the north, I see a hill. And I say, where did King David write this 3,000 years ago? Probably not far from where we're standing at this moment. We are now officially on the other side of the city. How long would it take us if we walked directly from that side to here without stopping? 1 minute. 60 seconds. 60 seconds it gets from one side of the city to the other side of the city. And then the big question is, how many people lived here thousands of years ago if from one side of the city to the other side of the city it takes 1 minute to walk? How many people? When we talk about King David, sometimes we don't put it into the numbers and to how big this place is. We talk about the great King David. He was great King David, and he was a king over a humongous place. But his capital city, the city of David, Jerusalem, was only probably, only probably kept around 2,000 people. That's how big the city was. You guys were in the old city. Yeah. This is the Western Wall. I'm guessing you guys walked out of the gun gate.
Yes.
You walked down this road. This is where my green bus is, guys, that I pointed out this morning. And you walk down here, and you walk down this road, and then you walked into the city of David. We did our lookout right over here. You guys see this lookout? Right over here at the top of the building. We did a lookout over here. We walked down underneath to where the palace of King David is, right above this area. Then we walked on the eastern slopes. Around this area, we crossed. Oh, this is the shul. You guys see the shul? We crossed right over here. And then right over here in this plaza, we went down underneath ground, and we're standing right over here. And until the end of the tour, basically we're going to do it from now until the next 30 minutes top. We're going to be walking all the way down to here. And here, I know it's hard to believe, but this will be the end of the tour. The wall getting lost, the kid getting lost, the sheep you buy on the way, the friend that you didn't see since the last holiday. This is so many stories around this small road. Now, this road that we could just imagine what was going on in it, we don't have to imagine anymore, because we could see it. Are standing on a road which was built 2,000 years ago by the Roman Empire. We didn't glue it together. We didn't find it in pieces. We didn't put it together like a puzzle. This is how we find it from here all the way down to the Pool of Siloam, which we're going to walk today, 300 meters. This is how we find it. Worried because of the hatred of each other. When I fast one day a year and my sons come up to me and they say, "Dad, why are you fasting?" I say, because it's the 9th of Av. And in our sources, it says that the second temple 2,000 years ago got destroyed because we hated each other. Josephus writes a book 2,000 years ago. Josephus is a historian that tells us what happened here, and he calls the book The History of the Jews. The Roman Empire told Josephus, write a book about these Jews, about this nation that will never be again. And Josephus writes a book. And one of the stories, he tells us that the Jews are hating each other so much that I went to my neighbor's house, I took his food, he came to my house, he burned down my house, I went to him, I killed his kids, and then he was looking after me to try to kill me. This is the hatred of each other for no reason. And when they're rather under siege of Jerusalem under the Roman Empire, you would think that the Jews came together. And he writes a story and he says, I'm walking around the Roman campsite, and some soldiers come up to their commander, the Vespasianus, and they say, Vespasianus, let's break into Jerusalem, let's kill the Jews. And he answers the most heartbreaking answer. He says, if we now break into Jerusalem, the Jews will stop fighting each other. They'll come together, fight us, and win. Even the Roman Empire knew that when the Jews are together, they could win anything. But he doesn't stop there. He says, let's sit outside of Jerusalem and watch Jerusalem like we are watching a play. In other words, let's enjoy this. And he doesn't stop there. He says one more thing. He says, what the Jews are doing to each other inside Jerusalem is much worse than we could ever think to do to them ourselves. That's the situation in Jerusalem. And I can't give that story without jumping to the 6th of October, 2023. Our enemy on the 6th of October or on the 7th of October thought that because we were fighting here in Israel for a year before with all our protests and everything, that we hate each other for no reason. That this is the end of the story. And they thought they could break into Israel and kill as many Jews as they can. And they tried that. But they didn't understand that we do learn our history. And in that day, we came together like we have never been before. My older brother, that was in a honeymoon in South America at the time, jumped on the next plane to fight here in this war. He didn't think to himself on the way, who's religious, who's non-religious, who's a Jew, who's not a Jew, who's right-wing, who's left-wing. He jumped into the tank when he got here and he went to fight. I personally was with him in 2 funerals from people from his own tank that got killed. Those are the questions that we're asking, that we're not asking in times of war. When we need to fight, when we need to come together, we will come together. We could disagree, but we will come together. Josephus tells us that the Roman Empire, walking on this road, hear the Jews hiding in the drainage tunnel, and they decide to take apart the road to find them. And all these holes that we see right over here is places that the Roman Empire, they took apart the road, they went down into the drainage tunnel, and Josephus tells us that they killed 3,000 Jews hiding in the drainage tunnel. And there were some that were able to get away. Some of us. And for the last 2,000 years, we're walking around no matter where we go. If it's Italy, if it's South America, North America, Canada, Australia, South Africa. No matter where we went for the last 2,000 years, we took something in our pockets way before iPhones and Androids. We took a small thing that was invisible that we call a compass. And this compass for the last 2,000 years is showing us one direction. The direction of Jerusalem. And no matter where we went, we were always pulling out this compass and saying, whoa, wait a minute. And if it's Passover night, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, families get together, hug each other, and sing the last verse before we finish off the night. And we sing L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim HaBenuya. Next year in Jerusalem, and maybe in a holiest moment of our life, under the chuppah, under the small tent before we get married, before we go eat our steaks and dance with the DJs and dance with the friends. For that, again, the sources tell us, one moment before you go party, say a verse. And it says, if I forget your Jerusalem, let me forget my right hand. Because what are we without you, Jerusalem? And that's what we're walking around for the last 2,000 years.
When I landed in Israel, the message I got was
really recognizing this as Palestinian territory.
We are in Bethlehem, of course, as you can see. And I want to show you this because people think Bethlehem there's no Christians, that Bethlehem is suffering, Bethlehem is hurting. There is some suffering, some hurting, but there's also a lot of potential, and I think it's very important. So we're here, we're at the digging site. We're creating a project that's going to create jobs for Christians and Muslims as well, because we want to bring the love of God to everybody. Jews, Israelis in the future. Why? Because if we're going to say Bethlehem is the city of peace, then we have to act like it. We have to live it. We have to breathe it. We can't just say it on a bumper sticker and promote killing, death, and division. If we're going to say Bethlehem is a
city of peace, and we have to open the doors for everybody to come to visit, to be here, to walk where Jesus walked. This is the city of David, the first city of David. David was here. He was born. He's just half a mile from here. The city of Ruth and Boaz. This is biblical truth. It's not political. This is biblical. So we have to bring the Bible alive to people. We've politicized the Bible, both sides. We've politicized the Bible. We have to bring the Bible. It's neutral. It's the truth. It's the Word of God. It's the hope for mankind.
War that, when we look at this war that we just came from, the Gaza border, Israel called the war iron swords, which is a logical, iron, strong metal. Sword is obviously something used in the military. Very practical, very tactical, very material. Hamas had a different name for the war, and it's called flooding Jerusalem, flooding Al-Aqsa, which, as you can tell now, it's more than a 2.5 hour drive from the Gaza border to Al-Aqsa. Not particularly close. It's half a country away. Why did they call it flooding Al-Aqsa? Because for them, they understood this is a religious war. Gaza sees Jerusalem as something that should be rightfully Muslim and should not be Jewish. And as Israel came to terms and began to understand the extent of our misconception and the paradigm shift that we're having, what we thought how we could control Gaza, and one of the ways that we are girding ourselves and strengthening ourselves so that we can control Gaza more is by demonstrating and asserting our own sovereignty and autonomy within our borders. Some of it is outside of our borders, how we handle Gaza and the day after in Gaza, and what we do in Lebanon, and how we protect the Druze even in Syria. But some of it is within our borders, and how we treat the religious sites in Jerusalem. We can be sensitive to Muslims and Islamic sites as we pass many cities over this drive where you can see mosques and Muslims have the freedom of expression and freedom of worship, and no one challenges that. Maybe we should control it a little bit more, but we don't. But certainly when it comes to sites that we know in Israel that these are the most holiest Jewish sites, the fact that the Muslims have a claim should not be stronger than our claim, and that perspective is gaining much more credence and is becoming a much stronger political motivation in Israel. And I don't know if that'll be the driving force in the next election, but it certainly is an undercurrent. And that's a momentum that I think is going to be hard to change.
We've finished our 3-day trip to Israel. The original goal of this trip was to come to Gaza with the invitation of the Gaza Humanitarian Fund to see firsthand how the situation in Gaza was unfolding, how was the humanitarian aid handled, and to do that fair reporting to the outer world with what we experienced with our own eyes. Now, we couldn't eventually enter Gaza itself. We did, however, go to the several points on the border with Gaza, including the Nova Festival site, including Kerem Shalom, where the humanitarian aid is being distributed and checked and delivered into the Gaza territory, and a few more sites where the massacres were happening on October 7th. We had a chance to speak with the people from the Prime Minister's office, from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we have addressed all of the things that we hear in the media and that are constantly repeated also in our work in the institutions within the European Union. And the responses that we heard are, of course, quite expected, right? It includes the fact that Israel's mission is to free the hostages, to demilitarize Gaza, to demilitarize Hamas, and to de-radicalize Gaza, to finally achieve some form of peace. And hopefully one day that will happen. Hopefully one day Gaza will no longer be this life prison where people die every day from being used as human shields by Hamas, from suffering the attacks by Israel, from being the place of the war. Hopefully one day this will be a place of peace, and hopefully the wounds will be healed. But as we've seen this, we also explored Jerusalem, we explored Bethlehem, we met with people who live on this territory and who were truly shaken, whose life have changed forever by October 7. And people who love Jerusalem to the depths of their heart, people who love Israel to the depths of their hearts, and people who live with the consequences of October 7th till the rest of their lives. And at the same time, we also hope that more people will go beyond just reading the news, the main media news, and try to understand deeper for themselves what is Israel, what is Gaza, what is the history, what are the lives of people like. Because at the end of the day, we are all on our human journey and we have to be human and try to understand more and dig deeper and learn more and think what the other side looks like. So, thank you for watching.